Chair recognizes Director Wray to summarize his statement for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman Thompson, Ranking Member Katko, members of the committee. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the FBI's 38,000 men and women to discuss some of the most pressing threats facing our homeland. When it comes to our current threat landscape, what makes our current situation, at least in my career, unique is, and particularly serious, I would add, is the fact that we have so many different threat areas all elevated at the same time. And I'm proud of the work that the FBI's agents, analysts, and professional staff are doing all over the country and all over the world every single day to rise to those challenges and to protect the American people. Protecting the American people from terrorist attack remains the FBI's #1 priority. As I've said before, the greatest threat we face on the terrorism front here in the homeland is from what are effectively lone actors or small cells. Whether it's a domestic violent extremist acting in furtherance of some ideological goal, or a homegrown violent extremist looking to advance the interests of a foreign terrorist organization, these actors often move quickly from radicalization to action and often use easily obtainable weapons, think a gun, a knife, a car, a crude IED, against soft targets, which is just intelligence community speak for everyday people living everyday lives. Overseas, ISIS and Al-Qaeda still aim to inspire, to plan, and to launch attacks against the United States and our allies, both abroad and here at home. As the Zawahiri strike this summer in Kabul reinforces the threat of foreign terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda attempting to reconstitute in Afghanistan following our withdrawal remains very real. And our ability to gather valuable intelligence on the ground inside Afghanistan has been reduced, and that's just a reality. All of that places a premium on our continued collaboration with our partners, both within the U.S. government and internationally. We've got to stay on the balls of our feet and use all of the tools available to us. On top of that, countries like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are growing more aggressive, brazen, and capable. They're coming at us from all angles to undermine our core democratic institutions, our national security, and our rule of law. Of those countries, the greatest long-term threat to our nation's ideas, innovation, and economic security, our national security, is that from China. The Chinese government aspires to equal or surpass the U.S. as a global superpower and influence the world with a value system shaped by undemocratic, authoritarian ideals. But we are confronting that threat head-on. Just 3 weeks ago, for example, we unsealed charges against 13 individuals, 10 of them Chinese intelligence officers and government officials, for a variety of criminal efforts to exert influence right here in the U.S. to benefit Beijing. And the FBI has scores of investigations open into the China threat in all 56 of our field offices. On the cyber front, China's vast hacking program is the world's largest, and they have stolen more of Americans' personal and business data than every other nation combined. But of course, China is not our only challenge in cyberspace, not even close. The FBI's cyber investigations are growing in frequency, scale, and complexity consistent with the evolution of the threat. We're investigating over 100 different ransomware variants, and each one of those with scores of victims, as well as a whole host of other novel threats posed by both cyber criminals and nation states alike. And it's becoming more and more difficult to discern where the cyber criminal activity ends and the nation-state activity begins as the line between those two continues to blur. Just last month, for example, we announced the indictment of 3 Iranian nationals for their roles in a multi-year scheme to compromise the networks of hundreds of organizations, many of which offer services Americans rely on every day. To those sorts of actors, nothing is off limits. Not even, for example, Boston Children's Hospital, which they set their sights on in the summer of 2021. Now, fortunately, before they could successfully launch their attack, we received a tip from a partner, and working closely with the hospital, we were able to identify and defeat the threat, protecting both the network and the sick children who depend on it. Our opponents in this space are relentless, so we've got to keep responding in kind. And I can assure you that we're going to continue to be aggressive and creative as we run joint, sequenced operations with our partners against these adversaries, removing their malware, taking down their botnets, and hunting them down all over the world. Now, that's just a snapshot of some of the many threats we're tackling, and doesn't even include things like our efforts to combat violent crime, where this summer, working with our state and local partners, we arrested on average 50 violent criminals every single day. Or our continued focus on human trafficking, where this August, through our annual Operation Cross Country, for instance, the FBI and our partners located more than 200 victims of human trafficking, many of them little kids. Or the work of our transnational organized crime section that it's doing in partnership with agencies like DHS to investigate the movement of people, drugs, guns, and money into the United States across our southern border. The breadth and depth of the threats that the FBI's dedicated men and women are tackling each and every day is staggering. And I continue to be inspired by their commitment to our mission of protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution. And I know we will continue to answer the call. So thank you again for having me here again today, and I'd be happy to address your questions.
Gentlemen, time has expired.